Hello, Tubby and Coos fans. It's me, Candace, with our Afternoon with Poets. I'm really excited about this event today because I watched a panel with all these poets on it called Queering the South at the Words and Music Festival last weekend. And I loved that panel so much. I was super into it. And these poets were all really amazing. And I was like, I want to hear their poetry. So I contacted the curator of that panel, Brad Richard, and asked if they would come and read. And they all said yes. So I'm really excited about that. My phone's ringing, but I won't answer it. I'll finish this introduction first. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, it is Small Business Saturday, so my phone will ring. So I am going to bring on Brad to just introduce this as a whole, and then we'll hear from each individual poet. And also, just to let y'all know, of course, it is Small Business Saturday, and now there goes my answering machine. So it is Small Business Saturday. Please order from us, of course, at tubbyandcoos.com and place an order. Turning that down. So sorry. I'm so sorry about this. So yes, place an order at Tubby and Coos to order books from us today for Small Business Saturday. And you can also email orders at tubbyandcoos.com. And also we are, during this panel, I'm going to give away an awesome poetry bag. Let me get the right one. So the actual bag looks like this. These are the books you're looking for, and it's Star Wars. And so, of course, we know y'all are going to love that. We have in here some local poets that you won't hear from today. So we have Raven Little, who is a young local poet, and she's amazing. And also Jericho Marchand, who is another local poet, also amazing. So both of their books of poetry are in here. We have a journal for you to keep track of all the poetry that you read and what poets that you like. We have a pocket poetry book as well, and some other cool stuff in there. So definitely during the broadcast, keep track. I will post in the comments at some point how to win that, and then you can do it. So without further ado, I want to bring on Brad Richard, who is the author of 4 collections of poetry, Habitations, Motion Studies, Butcher's Sugar, and Parasite Kingdom, which is the newest one. I like all of them, but I have a special place in my heart for Parasite Kingdom. It's a very cool book of poetry. He was named the Louisiana Artist of the Year in 2015. He is retired from Lusher Charter School. I think he was the chair of the creative writing program there. And he also teaches for the New Orleans Writers Workshop, and he is local here. So thank you so much, Brad, for curating this and for getting all of these poets to read for us today.
Oh, thank you for that great introduction, Candace. And thank you so much for this invitation. This is so great. That was such a great panel last weekend. We were having such a fun time talking, and didn't want to stop. So it's great to be invited back to read. I'm going to actually hand this off now to Matthew Draughter, who will be our first reader. But first, I just want to say that poetry bag looks great. Those are 2 really fantastic books. Hope somebody gets it. And yes, please order some books from Candace on Small Business Saturday. All right, Matthew.
Thanks, Brad. And thanks, Candace. And everyone, please order your books. I'm Matthew Draughter. I'm a poet and producer, born and raised from New Orleans, Louisiana. Currently also residing there as well. And yeah, I make lots of creative work and got some creative projects. Through living in Paris and Portland, San Francisco, and Chicago, I've used all of those experiences from all over the world to really put those things into my work that builds community and brings people together. My work has been published in the American Poetry Review, as well as Color Block, The Story of Us. And today I'll be reading from a project I've been working on for the past 2 years. I have a manuscript that I've completed, and these are the poems I'll be reading from today. The first poem is entitled This Promised Land. Exodus 14:21 through 22. Pre-eviction often looks chronic. Snow and wind swooning down from the darkest moon of promise. Broken and land stolen by man, stolen by man. No milk or honey here, only lights as snow and roads iced and stars from legends past, pushed down and pulled up from the sea. Before the final exit, ground to sea, foot to ground, paved through the cosmos of my ancestors, unwinding here, where water can't last long enough to liquid and break back the memories of you, beating till bound. Pre-eviction often looks like promised lands. No milk or honey here, only boys billowing buoyantly through clouds, dancing like David danced. Nice. The next poem I'm going to read from is entitled Blow. This poem is special to me. It's actually written from the persona of a trans girl in preparation for a ball. Blow. What mother doesn't know won't hurt her. So you watch the clock's dials tick towards 12 as the house sleeps. Finally, silence. Everywhere but within. Your heart beats loud enough for the birds to hear. Light a candle. Apply a lip. Your mother's. Contour lines. Your aunt's. Examine yourself. Floorboards creak. Blow it out. Redo your mascara before it's too late. So, you light a candle, slipping into your sister's dress, this time your gold. How do you see yourself when you look into the mirror? Is this how Picasso felt after he painted a lover in a beret? I've created my own image, my own shape, my own alphabet. Don't call me Vasarely, call me Victor, victorious in my own skin. A double take, you, the moon, you, your candle, similarities under every hue of light. A gangly silhouette dangles, slithering out a window, skipping into the street to define a category. Mother knows. She pretends to reverse the clock's dials, trying to recreate me once more in her image. How much longer must we dance this dance? A mother-daughter's tango. Won't she realize the music stopped a long time ago? The next poem is entitled On Looking, My Mother's Music Box, LTD, Love Ballad. What we have is a much more than they could see. What we have is a much more than they could see. 2 feet high, barely to the knee, on looking a box of secrets, gemmed memories, on looking the times when moments were defined as music notes and harmonies only few will ever understand. On looking the secret sweeps I'd make on Saturdays, peeking into your contents, on looking Michael, Teddy, Donnie, and Luther, on looking a body on the day of its final breath, on looking shipments to unfamiliar spaces. Have you ever thought about how to build a music box? On looking the carvings on your sides, your grandmother, the sculptor and goddess, you can't carve into it, Tanti. Grandma told you not to touch it. Yet, Tanti carved a tree that spread all over. Now we can feel our great-great-grandparents, heritage personified. What we have is a much more than they could see. On looking, bodies bodied and bound by love of sound, always wondering if you have ever really carved into this wood before, to hear, feel, see how it grinds. On looking the time you told me your music box would one day be mine, to etch a new piece of family into you. Beauty waxed in, pungent oak, vinyl, fresh plastic, music as a time of new additions, onlooking Whitney, Aretha, Natalie, and Billy. An ark of the covenant for the lost, a space-time continuum passed down by generations, sent to generations to come. What we have is much more than they could see. Thank you. I have 3 more. The next one that I have is entitled Negritude number 211, Mariah Carey as Medusa for Halloween, explaining divorce. I know it's an insane title, I know, but she's an extra person, so you have to go into the persona. I've always liked men with short names. I guess like my dad. Showmen, musicians, men of great athletic prowess, bleak. Doing the legwork to find the nothing in man because none of them ever have nails long enough to scratch. Your pussy is a vessel akin to the moon and the stars that bend to your voice. Remember your breath, omega, and your legs, alpha. My life's romances have been my mother screaming at my father. Learn very early that love is riding tucked in the subway's corner seat in the dead of winter. The moment my heart's clock melted into 2:11 a.m. Replaying sheets, silhouetting and swaying the night you requested I bring you forever. Underestimating my power to serve you, the universe, on a platter each morning. My life's men never being ready, and perfect summer without the love in my hands, incessantly seasoning chicken thighs and dusting ash off the men that I've stoned. The second to last poem I'm going to read. This one was actually published in this year's July-August edition of the American Poetry Review. So if you like this, you'll get an issue, and also just subscribe. This poem is entitled Celestial on the Topic of Unloving, featuring Minnie Riperton. Today I kissed a stranger because the vibe was right. I felt his heart pulse through eye contact, and Lord, I got staring like la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Minnie keeps singing to me because your notes are almost as high as my. Stop reading, stop looking, stop. Pressed between a rock and masculinity is the hard place. You keep reading me. This boy feels like unpacking a new do-rag and finding a new way to lay my edges down. Make me keep play loving you when it's not springtime, because your kiss sits in my stomach like a seed, waiting to stick its roots into the ground. Springtime. Grow within me, grow within me like all of the seasons, creating a universe just for two. Because loving you feels like when Moses parted the Red Sea, and the Israelites never knew God was planning to have goddesses pick out their afros and create rocket ships to pierce stratospheres, break down black holes, and fall in love with nameless stars just because the vibe is right. The last poem I'm going to read to you today is actually entitled Blood Water. And this poem was written for Breonna Taylor. Through birth I am ocean tides of this world and back. In, then out, quickening and thick, tucked in, then initiated for departure. Black one has never been ready. Lazarus risen through blunt sessions in bathrooms. Smoke is the sole ingredient for resurrection. Blood into water and life back on layaway from the man, numbered and stowed, collecting bodies, Often feels like cross-country treks, and people like me constantly watching their backs. I'm wondrously loud because protection will not exist for me in this time, nor space, and hope is just a day that no longer sings, just hums, sacred and scorned and scorched like the sun doused in a river of black bodies, as cumulus commandments, resting abreast the final waves, in and out of space, tucked in and wrapped up for final ascent. Here I am, reconstruction, night phoenix risen through body and bone and blood of my people lost at sea. Their voices, the atmosphere, and their eyes all on me, for these souls won't ever come back nor have a third day. No baptism, no body, nor blood, only spirit. And even when unlocked, still bound by the lands of this world, I try, and still I can't breathe. When water engulfs these wings, once blazed and powered by the laughter and smiles of men and women, they diminish into whistles and salutes. And yet, still in descent, we sing. For Ahmad and May, to Corinne and Michael and Tanisha and Trayvon and Sandra, to Oliver and Elton and Eric and Philando and Brianna and Terrence and Walter, for Samuel and Philip and Dominique and Jamel and Demarius and George, to Miguel, Ricky, Kendall, and Marvell, to Henry, Sean, and Deveron, for Oscar, Kashad, Antoine, and Eleanor, to Lawrence and Ramad and Gregory and Terry, for Sandy and Tamir, and on and forever on. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. My
Thank
goodness
you.
gracious. There's so many great lines in those. I love that Minnie Riperton poem. And God, a line that just popped out from this last one that you read. They diminish into whistles and salutes. Gorgeous.
Thank you. I learned from a great, great person.
Oh. Oh, thank you again. Next up, we have the amazing Billiam Meekers, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, Brad. Hi, everyone. My name is Billiam Meekers. I am a Black queer poet. I live in Seattle now, but I was grown up in New Orleans. I was one of Brad's students, and for my work, I've been published in The New Yorker and Granica and Foglifter, kind of all over. Still working on my first book that is tentatively titled Whipstitch. And I'm going to be reading some poems for y'all today. Okay. Muse redaction. Mother won't tell me to mention sexuality, to put down my books so I won't have to look into all your faces. My blouses open into the arms of ghosts, and this mostly exposes the cold surface of mirror to the breasts. You say clothing is an odd set of containers for the limbs, a phoropter that clicks into the wrong prescription. And in the gallery, I mistake your portraits for bird shit, must wrap my wrists in something scarlet as directed. Often I forget ordinary blessings, rubbing the pad of my thumb against a contact lens, my boredom with being heartbroken. Your fingers in my mouth are always a solution if I'm gonna be the visionary of knives you want to neck. I want to laugh at the sliced sausages you pin to the white walls streaked with sweat. The blurred faces of meat curl into an everyday hurt that makes us wet. And in the blue-black of my bed, I swear I don't like you. I will not call you Muse. This next poem is a poem in 3 parts. I'm going to pause a little bit between each part, so just a heads up. Sonogram. You put in the tip, and I'll do the rest, the doctor said. I mean, the doctor was worried about postcoital bleeding. He said he'd give me something, like a tampon, a camera to look inside. Spread your legs. You put the tip in. You asked me, did it feel good, baby? And I couldn't say yes. The sheet was whiter than the device, lubed up in our hands what could have been a dildo or a magic wand we pressed in. Then he said, let go. I mean, spread your legs so I can move. See, here's your uterus, here's the IUD, your left ovary. You asked me, did it feel good, baby? And I couldn't say yes. I mean, I was looking at the ceiling and the sheet was scratchy. I mean, the lights were low and the room was cold. I wanted to say yes, but I was thinking about how most women came for miniature sex organs and beating baby hearts, and maybe this was something close. No, I was lying there waiting with my backpack in the corner and my bottoms on the chair. And when it was over, the doctor, the wiping myself after, I was eggless and unrequited. I was the probe, condomed, revolving slowly in my own body. I was the ovary, overgrown with nodules. I spoke my own language and swallowed words, whole worlds when I wanted. Okay. Ode to Leather. I could be another mammal, strapped into a harness, a living organ trapped in a cell of muscle. In you, I could be the whipped bull, the low moan bound to the throat, the horizon wrung out and left to hang on the fence post. You were my first armor against soil when tires bred small storms of burnt rubber and herds of bikers stripped down the road. What I want to know is how to say suspended like a holler, like I'd done something awful enough to make the grass dry up, to chew the duvet down to feathers. Truth is, nothing really leaves the body and turns into a flogger. The cow's tail swishes and stings the flies. You lift me up, and my tusk cunt, a stitch in our pastoral, the mount and bridle for a body splayed wide, as I flex my untanned hide. Okay, so this next poem, I'm not even sure if it counts as a poem yet, but has been something that I've been working on for a while now. It's an exercise that I do sometimes. I just mimic other poets. And Morgan Parker has this amazing poem called Matt that I've always been so jealous of. And Ocean Vuong has another poem called Trevor that I also love so much. So this is an exercise kind of riffing off of the form of those two poems. So Katie, after Morgan Parker and Ocean Vuong. Sunburn and rolling papers, Katie. Sheer top and no bra, Katie. Katie like the wick of a trick candle. She's met you 7 times and can't remember your name. You've met 7 of her and can't remember her names. 7 freckles down her back, 7 spliffs in her backpack. Katie caught on a chain link fence, waving from the top with a pair of scissors. For you to climb up, cut a slit in her dress. Katie, who stole a handle from her father and took shots of vodka out the empty Advil bottles because she could, because Katie is a healer, and Katie is a healer too. Katie just wants all women to fight the patriarchy. She's never seen a woman like you topless, nipples like brown saucers, sinking your toes into the banks of the Mississippi and yelling mercy at the moon. Is the inside of your vagina pink, Katie? Katie with eyes like blue kerosene. I mean, I want to see if we're the same, Katie. A coal in the pit, lighter fluid and a spit, Katie. She spins like the trigger on a broken viewfinder. Katie blowing her boyfriend by the trees at the levee while you stand guard, while you stand with your arms locked around your hips because you're such a good friend, Katie. Look, it is summer. It is spring, and here's Katie, 19, hair in butterfly clips like a pinned flame. Then Katie, 23, combat boots and ripped jeans, chin smeared with blackberry juice, smacking June bugs away from the fruit. Katie just wants all women to explore a juicier means of being. Yogi Katie with all the other Katies, pressing her forehead against yours in a sacred circle. She doesn't understand why y'all stopped talking. She loves her new black boyfriend, starts scrolling through dick pics at the party. Women's March and Pussy Hat Katie, cardboard and magic markers Katie. Katie reads Atwood, Katie reads Plath, Katie reads. She's gonna make it when the art scene catches up to what she's doing, really. Katie presses her purple lipstick against your neck, gold hoops, crescent bruises. Katie is moving to the Marigny. Katie is moving to Bushwick. Katie is really from Wyoming, but says she's from Milan. Katie pulls you into an alley and kisses your wrist. Can my boyfriend watch, Katie? Katie doesn't get why y'all don't talk anymore. You and Katie on shrooms in the shower. Katie takes her top off and shows you a Taoist breast massage. Katie takes her top off and tells you not to look. Katie throws bad energy from her nipples into a ring of tea candles. Katie, like the fire you never blow out completely. You're the only black woman she's ever seen half naked. Katie with wet hair, rubbing soap against your neck. She wants to live in the woods together, and you're the only black woman she holds in the dark corner of the party when her boyfriend isn't looking. Okay, I've just got one more. I want to remind y'all, please support your small businesses on Small Business Saturday and order books from Candace. You can order at tubbyandcoos.com. Please help out. That would be great. So, one more. Auntie Mother sings against body. A hetero wedding is where guests in their magical dresses wave a baby around the heads of the bride and groom. I never remember these things correctly and dislike children because they are sticky. What else can you call their small, weird paws webbed with anonymous eggy fluid? Most of the time, we're unborn or dead, I say to the good people of the subway station. It's true. Life is stupid. And the vampire on television says we imagine ourselves into existence. Scientists agree. And in the dream where I'm a drag king dancing to Prince, the audience throws severed plant genitals at me. I want to write my way out of ordinary violence, how every day matter congeals into our odd, squishy bodies that talk and smear spit on each other's faces, how I forget to thank the thunder and Louisiana warblers, the barber that twirls his mustache into glory, that icky bit of flesh that fell out of me, and the toilet that sluiced it to the sea. Thank you. That's it.
Oh my God! Thank you so much, B. I love that Morgan Parker Matt poem so much.
Isn't it so good?
Oh my God! Oh my God! And I got to see her read it once. It was amazing. And the Ocean Vuong poem. But I'm so glad that they wrote those poems so that your poem now exists.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God! I was laughing so hard Thank God my mic was off. All right. So I think I am up next. I'm Brad Richard. Candace introduced me. That's who I am. So I have pulled out newer poems for the most part, and they are poems that may be going into my next book, which is tentatively called Who We Are to One Another. And I also realized after I printed them out that a lot of them are like me looking back on my dirty past, except for the last one. So here we go. Cinderella. 19, I liked how tank tops, tight jeans, cutoffs showed off my 100 push-ups, my lakeside runs. Drag's magic wasn't mine, but it dazzled when Dallas showed up to work a la Brooke Shields, his chunkier, broad-shouldered body beguiling as a girl I could get into. It was 1983. My world seemed small, tidy, divided into men's and women's, hits and misses. Dallas needed a wedding dress for a show he meant to win, so after the tip split and shift drinks and ones for the road, we waiters and busboys grabbed our go-cups and catwalked to the fancy resale shop next door. The owner, Dee's pal, had given him the key and her blessing for one night to try on whatever we wanted. Girl, you're gonna rip these seams, squealed Ray, tugging at the zipper that refused to budge another inch up Dee's back. God fucking damn, that was the one, Dee squirmed, shuffling off the brocade coiled gown he'd scoped all week. Ray and the gang consoled him as they processed into realms of lesser dresses. I lingered, seduced by the gown that spurned a Dee's girth, then stripped, stepped into the sheath, reached behind, zipped. You bitch, and you not even a queen. No, never outside those walls, but as my queens cooed, tugged, and turned me for a crowded mirror, I saw myself at 14, done up as Frankenfurter, a Rocky Horror Party starlet, pert in thigh-highs, garters, and corset. And see, at 9, I'm the star of my solo closet dramas, raiding mom's walk-in when she goes out, some other body tingling under flowy rayon prints, princess, so many suitors cloaked in their pursuits. The next two poems are in the same form, which is a pantoum. I won't bother trying to explain it to you. It always feels like I'm like giving you a lesson, but you'll just hear that there's repetition and alternation that happens. The first one is called La Ronde. You know something, kid? You're pretty stupid, he said, pulled up his running shorts and ran. Cum drunk, stunned, my car keys lost in the grass, hurled from my teen slut paradise by words, he said. I pulled up my running shorts, ran up and down the levee, clawing the ground. Hurled from my teen slut paradise by words, I cursed him, me, and every dick I'd sucked up and down the levee. Clawing the ground, I cringed at telling Dad I'd lost the keys again. Cursed him, me, every dick I'd sucked. Why did it always have to be this way? I cringed at telling Dad I've lost the keys. A jogger slowed, ambled down, smiled at me. Why did it always have to be this way? I sank to my knees, tugged at his waistband, cum drunk, stunned, my car keys lost in the grass. The joggers slow, amble down, smile at me. I sink to my knees, tug at their waistbands. You know something, man? You're pretty stupid. So I saw a message from someone saying they would like for me to explain the pantoum. So it's Pantoum, and it's composed of in 4-line stanzas, so quatrains, and lines 2 and 4 become "You're welcome, thank you for asking." Lines 2 and 4 of each stanza become lines 1 and 3 of the next stanza. So it becomes like this braided thing. But then at the end, the first and third lines of the first stanza become the second and fourth lines of the last stanza. So that's it. They're kind of addictive. Let me just start writing them. All right, this one's called On Forms. I'm just going to say this is one of my favorite opening lines that I ever wrote. And it was something that was actually said to me on forms. Your ass looks just like I thought it would. Mike, ex-merchant marine, to me, 14. Phenomenal flicker of my puerile form, quickened by his glance, made real in his words. Mike, ex-merchant marine, to me, 14, my first, my taker, my erotic maker. Quickened by his glance, made real in his words. I thought I knew myself, thought, this is it, my first, my taking, my erotic making. Form is change. The one succumbs to the many. I think I know myself, think, this is it, every time I undress for another man. Forms change, each one succumbing to the many shifting shades of my needs and mine to theirs every time I undress for another man. 14. Turn your back to me. Pull them down. Shifting shades of my needs and Mike's and yours. 50. Turn your back to me. Pull them down. Phenomenal flickering out of puerile form. Your ass looks just like I thought it would. All right, big shift here. So one poem that I'll dedicate to my dad, since he had to make such an awkward appearance in that other poem. All right, and this one's called The Crossing. I've done this before. Sidestepped down the bayou's bank with my father, stooping to help him slip the tarp from our pirogue, easing it down to the water. I'm 10, and this is magic while it lasts, our flat-bottomed glide on the muddy current, dipping an oar now and then, just to feel the reason it was made. We pass willows whose low-hanging branches trace lines on the surface, like my fingers dangling over the boat's low rim. We lull in the shade of a river oak, 6 feet from a branch sagging from the weight of snakes piled asleep on it. Some part of one of them rolls, another, slow, unknowable knot. Then one strand of the mystery stirs and wriggles free, ribbons down into shadowed water, then ripples across, head lifted, past our boat to the sunlit other side. That's it. I'm here. I'm doing this until it can't be done, until there is no other side, no farther to go to, no father, every loved, every feared thing stolen, as this boat will be in a month or so, until I am equal to what the snake knows, slipping down from the tree, stepping down into bilge, head up to steady myself, pushing off. And the last one is called How I Came to This. One morning, I'm digging in the garden, my shovel turning blown stalks of lettuce back into earth. Later, I'm shelving books that have stood quietly in stacks for months, sliding them back into alphabetical gaps, where I will forget them again for many years. Chekhov in hand, I stop, thinking I heard the snap of the raccoon trap shutting, but a glance out the window says I'm wrong. Some other morning, I'm listening to my husband's car turn the corner as I open the notebook on my desk and try to remember the line I held in my head when I woke. By lunch, I've read bad poetry and written worse, read the news, signed urgent petitions, and urged you, my friends, to do the same today. After lunch, a roasted chicken breast, asparagus, I nap until the orange cat walks over my chest, and I realize I have not yet left the house, and I realize I have no desire to. One summer, I will dig an asparagus bed. I will read all of Proust. I will teach myself the secrets of extraordinary cuisines. This afternoon, I read one page of a New Yorker and fall back asleep to dream I am at the deathbed of Gertrude Stein. In a group with the famed chef Alice, and as Stein expires, we all wander out into the fields to watch the northern lights. The cat walks across my grave, my heart again, and I wake remembering that the lost line contained the letter L. I can still make the gym, or the library, or dinner, or another attempt at a poem. Yes, all of that will be perfect tomorrow. And perhaps we're talking about late tonight when I greet my husband on the porch with a glass of wine and ask how his day was, as I will ask him every day for as long as we each shall live. Thank you. Our next, but not least poet, writer, the amazing Megan Volpert, who has a special place in my heart too, because fellow high school teacher. I'm retired, but I still count myself in the number. So, Megan.
Hey, New Orleans. I miss you. I took Small Business Saturday as kind of a theme challenge, I guess. All the pieces I'm going to read to you are from small presses. So in addition to supporting independent bookstores, you should definitely be supporting independent presses. Thinking about that today. And the theme of each of the three pieces I'm going to read for you is about smallness versus bigness, and why smallness kicks the ass of bigness on a kind of a regular basis. So the first two things I want to read for you, I don't know if they're poems. I always feel like I'm a party crasher when I'm with a bunch of poets for a poetry reading. I never know if my shit is poetry or not. These first two things I'm going to read come out of this book that I wrote, which is kind of about Bruce Springsteen, but not really. It's called Boss Broad, and you can see that bling up there. That means that it won something. It won Georgia Author of the Year for essay. Sort of, if you need more evidence that I might not really be a poet. But anyway, you can judge for yourself whether you think these things are poets. As if that's not all meta enough, this first selection is to recommend to you another book that is about bigness versus smallness and is also published by a small press. Woo! If that hasn't blown your mind, here's the actual piece. As a critic, my main job is to convey a clear sense of what is at stake with any particular art object by delivering a fully formed opinion about it to readers who have yet to encounter that object themselves. As a process, criticism gets more complicated when the object of this opinion is a book that itself treats another separate art object. This type of criticism can spawn a stream of tangents for one to separate or to follow ad infinitum. The tricky bit is knowing which rabbit holes are worth pursuing and then how deep to fall down into them before they bottom out. When criticism bottoms out on a really profound sidebar, that often means it can't get back in touch with its art object and thusly can't conclude with an opinion that properly alerts readers to what they should do next. Most critics consider this type of writing to be a big fail. Not me and not Alina Simone. So let me say right now, Alina Simone's Madonna Land is a totally excellent book. And if you don't bother to read it, you will be missing something significant in the development of modern cultural criticism. Simone did not set out to write criticism. She set out to write a biographical account of Madonna. But she could not. She failed at that. Most writers do because, come on, it's Madonna, a living legend of popular culture whose daily media references are generated at such a rate that it is simply impossible either to say that you have read all there is on the subject of her, or to say that you have something so fresh to add to the slush pile that it is worth publishing a book about. There's no shortage of crap books about Madonna's life and work. It is to Simone's credit that she wanted to dive into such an intimidating mess, and even more to her credit that she chose to bail on it in favor of this project, which is essentially a catalog of her failure to write the greatest Madonna book ever. As a result, she actually did succeed in writing the greatest Madonna book ever because the focal point of it is Alina Simone, not Madonna. Simone herself had grand musical ambitions once upon a time, and indeed did very well for herself at the high tide of college rock in the 90s, but her band didn't gather enough momentum to stay on top. So despite her skills and savvy, Simone now enjoys a somewhat more low-key existence as a smart cultural commentator with a nice backstory to vouch for her ample musical street cred. She is plainly self-aware of her own jealousy of Madonna's success. She isn't a Madonna superfan, a nutjob memorabilia hoarder, or sporting any full back tattoos of the pop star's face. In this book, she does meet all those people. She also meets a Madonna-specific fortune teller in an encounter that I will not spoil for you by trying to describe it any further. There are a lot of weird people in the Madonna orbit, and Simone's taxonomy of all these characters is delightful through and through. The king of the heap is Gary Johnson, who also doesn't even adore Madonna that much. Johnson is like a real-life version of the Gilmore Girls character Taylor Ducey, a fervent town hall meeting guy with a profound knack for the kind of research bureaucracy that makes him a blustery thorn in the side of many local politicians. Johnson wants a sign outside the town of Bay City, Michigan, acknowledging it is the birthplace of Madonna. Simone goes to Bay City to research Madonna's early years and is dumbstruck by the total lack of information available. Instead, there's Gary Johnson and his quest for signage. I say quest because apparently this has been something of a raging municipal battle for decades now in Bay City, Michigan. Then there's the ancillary problem of the town's official song, which may or may not be racist. Then there's this whole thing about multiple giant engraved keys to the city. I don't know. Then it turns out that Bay City is also the birthplace of question mark and the Mysterians. And then there's a chapter on Flying Wedge. Flying Wedge is a mythic, astoundingly excellent black classic rock band about whom nobody beyond the most serious vinyl hunters knows. They had one single and 3 fans, and now they're gone, and Death, an equally good band working in a similar vein, got its long overdue documentary treatment first, so that's the end of Flying Wedge. These developments result in an interesting foray into the question of who first smuggled the word masturbate into a Billboard Top 100 song. It is also important the word monde green, noun, a misinterpreted word or phrase resulting from misheard song lyrics. Simone will give you an education, just not really about Madonna. These are great tangents. They are so great that they become central. Does the world need one more half-baked biographical update on Madonna? No. No, it does not. What the world does need is Alina Simone productively, clear-eyed assessment of her own musical and journalistic failures, told with deep affection for the detours unavoidably provoked by fame and by fandom. Madonna Land is not the end cap of Simone's existential musings. It is an intense jewel in the already sparkly crown of a consistently perceptive critic. I find myself jealous of her. Pause for applause. Okay, so you should read Madonna Land. That was a book that inspired my failed biography of Bruce Springsteen, which, again, is award-winning or whatever, and you should own a copy. The second thing I want to read you from here is about a band that I formed with a 3-year-old. Claire came back to town for the book festival, and she brought her 5-year-old, who we mainly referred to as Monkey. Monkey is actually only 3, but she is preternaturally witty and intellectually gifted for her age, and there is something about assuming partial responsibility for a 3-year-old for a weekend that seems way more treacherous, so I prefer to think of Monkey as 5. Monkey wanted to form a band and really went about it in an organized manner. She picked out one of Mindy's ukuleles from the line on the living room wall and plucked at it for a few minutes until it quickly dawned on her that acoustic instruments do not feel right. Fortunately, Mindy has an electric uke, too. Monkey plugged in that bad boy and never looked back. She had a decent strumming pattern, could keep a beat for a couple of measures at a time, and was fond of finger-picking with her fretboard hand like a cross between bluegrass and Tom Morello. She intuited that both hands ought to be playing the same string at the same time, and she would look down at what her own 2 hands were doing at least as often as she would look up to see how much we were enjoying the show. She did have excellent living room stage presence, even dropping down to one knee during the bridge at the peak of her solo. Monkey did all this with an innate confidence that was unspoiled by schooling, by marketing, by helicopter parenting. She had a powerful intrinsic sense of self that probably all little girls possess before the world beats it out of them. She was wearing an oversized t-shirt that hung down to her knees with a koala bear on it that said, "Trust me, I'm koalified." She explained to me that the shirt was a thought experiment wherein she imagined herself as a koala bear and presumed that as a koala bear, she is trustworthy. I explained to her what qualified means and then what a pun is. Then she asked Mindy and me to join her band. She named us Time Receipts, clarifying that we would then always remember what a great time we were having together that weekend because a receipt would show the time. She went on to tell us what the first song was about and give us a nod when we should come in on the chorus. Each of us had to invent some verses. They did not need to rhyme, and we did not need to harmonize. In fact, we ultimately created a kind of delightful atonal racket together. Monkey was not interested in balladry. She did not ever want to do anything slowly all weekend, swooshing by us and always wanting to know what was next. So many children just ask why, tone deaf to the nihilism implied by infinite regress. But this one wanted to know, and then what? She mostly sped through eighth notes, na 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 na, until I modeled some 16ths for her, na 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 na, and we both shredded until she dropped to one knee again, and I was forced to declare my arms hurt from so much band rehearsal. Monkey agreed, and we called it a night. We all assumed that it would be fleeting, but after returning home from the aquarium the next day, Monkey immediately picked up her instrument and marched us all into the living room for another practice because, heads up, we had a show that night. I asked her if it would be as long as Springsteen's record-breaking summer at MSG. She made a face, indicating both that she did not care who the boss was and that she did not appreciate us being compared to other bands. Mindy had been calling her boss throughout band practice, which Monkey did not mind at all. The show ultimately ran about a half hour with no encore because the venue was shutting down for bedtime. You like circles and I like squares, but they're both shapes, so who really cares? The total effect was probably not unlike early practices in the garage with the Ramones. She has a lot of potential. I taught Monkey some basics using her amp, and when I tried to show her the more comfortable way of slinging her uke strap over her shoulder to better distribute the weight of the instrument across her tiny 33-pound frame, she once again scrunched up her face and declared she would do it the harder way because she was used to that. Okay, so that's Boss Broad. It is full of portraits of boss broads like Madonna, like Alina Simone, like Monkey, like myself. Ultimately, it's a memoir kind of masquerading as a biography. So if you're into that, thank you in advance. The other book that I want to show you is also published by a small press out of Arkansas. The press is Italia, and the name of the book, which was edited by me, is Closet Cases, Queers on What We Wear. It has beautiful, super gay binding, and it is filled with photography on one side of the page and musings on those photos on the other side of the page. And it's a bunch of queers just talking about, you know, their clothes and stuff. You don't have to be very fashiony to appreciate it. It's a book for all ages. And I hope you dig it. It's a really good, I don't know what to get you for the holidays, but you're gay and this book's gay, so here you go. Like if you're struggling with what to do with the gay person in your life, get them this book. It's widely applicable. All right. Here's my piece from the book, and this is the last thing I'm going to read. Here's a picture of my watch bands and my super gay rainbow watch there. The piece is called Watchdog. Time is against us, is how most queers feel. We're always waiting for the other shoe. Even watching a polite and tidy sitcom like Will and Grace, I catch myself thinking, Jack's going to get the shit beat out of him any day now. Or AIDS, or jail, or homelessness. I have two openly queer friends who worked in high schools like I do. They both retired this year. The way we counted those days down, you'd think we were in NYC for NYE 1999. If you're queer and you finish out your career by natural means instead of getting fired, that's living the dream. The Timex Weekender is a cheap dial that makes a big sound. Tick, tick, tick. All the time. Time was coming hard for me, and I started running, worked faster, thought faster, stopped for no one, accomplishments as far as the eye could see. This $10 watch ran me. I couldn't stand it. I gave the watch away a few days after I put it on, by which time it had aged me several months. A lot of other things happened over many more moons, and I survived them all. The person I am now meditates about 20 minutes a day, every day, tapping the ancestors. And you know what they say? Tick, tick, tick. How precious it is to finally respect a few of one's elders. How invigorating to have lasted one more minute in this queer body in this strange life. How brave to simply keep showing up, and how aggravating for the other bastards that one's accomplishments keep aggregating. Also accumulating are a diverse bunch of watch bands because I ponied up another $10 to reclaim my Timex. The person I am now happily straps on this constant reminder to hold steady. Sometimes, in a contentious meeting, my admin will sit back in his chair and I can almost see him calculating whether this is indeed the hill I die on. And you know what? It never has been so far. And while he's thinking about it, in the hostile silence of the conference room, I'm telegraphing him that queer agenda. Tick, tick, tick. Thanks.
Oh my God. Thank you, Megan. Those were great. I really want to read Madonnaland now, and I want to meet Monkey. Oh my God. Incredible. Can we do a virtual round of applause for all of our readers who were so incredible? And for Candace and for Chubby and Coos. Thank you, Candace.
Thank y'all very much for being here and doing this. This was amazing. I was laughing at your Katie poem, and Billy, because I was like, oh my God, I don't know how many people know this, but I have created sort of a fake employee that answers the phone when I get sales calls.
Really?
Because I'm the only one here. I don't have employees. And so I just pretend like, oh yeah, I work here. The owner's not in. It's only for sales calls, clearly. And I named her Susie. And as you were reading your Katie poem, I'm like, this is Susie. This is 100%. This is who Susie is. So I was laughing that whole time. But thank you all so much. We're getting rounds of applause in the comments. And people were interactive and seemed to be really enjoying it. I know I enjoyed it a lot. I'm really glad we did this. Thank you all so much for agreeing to do this. I love just the variety of poems I got to hear too. So many different powerful things. So I'm really happy that y'all did this today. Thank you very much. And just to let everyone know that's out there that's still watching, I am giving away the poetry bag. So you just have to call the store. I posted the phone number in the comments. It's 504-345-8491. And the first person to call me and mention this bag will win it. So just give me a call and you can win the bag. And of course, it is Small Business Saturday. We want you to support local authors and indie businesses. So you can do both of those things if you order local authors books like from us, or indie authors books from an indie bookstore, wherever you are. So tubbyandcoos.com and place an order. Someone may be calling about the poetry thing right now.
Answer it live.
Okay, I'll answer it live. Chubby and Coos Mid City Bookshop. Oh, hello. No one has called in yet, so you have won the poetry bag. We're still live. Oh no one has. She's saying she had to step away, and so when she came back, she saw it was posted and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna call right now." So no one has won. So you will win it. So I'm gonna hang up, and I will get with you later about how to get that to you. Sure. And we're still live, so I'm gonna hang up and I'll get with you later. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye. Yay!
Oh my God.
So someone has won the poetry bag. Thank you for watching. And then they wanted to talk to me about orders and stuff. It's like, oh, thank you. I'll get you. Still live. So yes, thanks everyone. Order from us and get stuff. And it's Small Business Saturday. Thanks for supporting. Thank y'all for doing this and supporting my small business today. Really appreciate it. it. And everyone have a great rest of the day. Stick around because in a few minutes, in 15 minutes or so, if you haven't seen it yet, I'll be doing a virtual tour of the new store. And so I'll be doing that live. And then I will also give a state of the store address. It's sort of like my presidential address about what's going on with the store, when we might be open for browsing, that good stuff. So if you didn't catch any of that yesterday, stick around for that in 15 minutes or so. And thank y'all again. And thanks everyone for watching. And y'all have a good rest of your afternoon.